when it comes to like immigrant parents, or when it comes to parents that started businesses and they're really worried about their kids not taking over the business and running it just like they ran it, is that he would tell me that, if you like to do something else, you want to be in sports or whatever you want to do with your life, you can do that and do real estate. And I think that's what's special too about real estate, is that it allows you to set your life up in a way that you can pursue other interests. It doesn't have to be your full-time job if you don't want it to be.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I just need to tell you, today's episode is one you really, really don't want to miss. We speak to Jordan Da Silva, he's super inspirational. He's a 25-year-old real estate investor from Dallas, Texas. He's currently the CEO of Web City Properties, which is an investment company started by his father in 2005. Web City's Properties owns and manages over 500 units compiled of a mix of single-family rental properties, small multifamily, and commercial office buildings. They hold mortgage notes, and they're currently investing in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. We actually talked about his father's journey and him immigrating here from India and going to California and actually being in Compton, California, and investing there. And he was going all the places no one else wanted to go. And he was creating an impact in areas that other people were shying away from. And that is very apparent in how that's spilled over into Jordan's whole persona and the way that he runs the company now, because unfortunately, Jordan's dad passed a couple of years ago. And we talked about how that impacted him and how he's still carrying the torch, and how his dad actually was very detailed with the estate plan for how all the assets were going to get passed down and who was going to manage the portfolio. And so that's kind of what we talk about on this show, is how do we pass down our assets that we build up to our children and our future generations so that they don't squander it. So we get to see a real life example of that happening. And Jordan has just like a phenomenal head on his shoulders. You won't regret listening to this show in its entirety. Jordan actually enjoys taking on difficult value add properties, just like his father, leading teams and providing quality housing with great customer service. He also runs a nonprofit dedicated to providing solutions for families living in poverty. In his free time, he enjoys traveling, sporting events, and trying new foods. And so with all that said, this was just super impactful, because what Jordan is doing with his father's company and the family company now is just all encompassing of what we are trying to do and accomplish with this show, with my own real estate investing. And it kind of lets me see an example of someone who's further ahead than me on their journey and how they're actually implementing the same type of impactful investment strategies that I've always wanted to do. So it was a very great episode for me, and it helped me see the possibilities. And I know it's going to do the same for you. So make sure you stay tuned. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Share the Wealth Show. This is the show where we talk about strategies to build, grow, and protect minority wealth. I can't stop laughing. Jordan Da Silva is with us today, and he has been so patient. I'm a whole mess today. I just got off of recording a previous episode, and he said, I've been having to be on the phone with my contractor. I'm trying to just do all these other things. And he's sitting there so calm.
The life that we're called for. Right?
This is the life that we're called for. Yeah. Oh man. But thank you, Jordan, for hopping on. I'm glad that we had a call a little while ago and got to meet each other. at least with air quotes virtually. But yeah, I gave a brief overview of what you've been doing, but can you actually tell the listeners a little bit about your journey and how it started? I don't know how far back you want to go, but especially anything that was mindset that you really had to shift to go in the direction that you are today. And if nothing else, just basically how you got to where you are today and what were those big transformational moments or opportunities, mindset shifts, anything that you want to share that you think is impactful.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I'm super fortunate, and it all starts with my dad. So his story is what's really remarkable. I'm just lucky to be able to continue his legacy. So my dad was born in India, grew up in poverty, grew up in a cycle of poverty, and he dreamed of coming to America when he was young, and he dreamed of achieving the American dream, which was a long shot for somebody of his upbringing. And somehow, some way, when he was 21, he got to the U.S. He studied. He went to California in the 70s, and he started a manufacturing company. And then he realized that the guy next door has a BMW. He says, what do you do for a living? The guy says, I'm in real estate. So he says, okay, I think I'm in the wrong industry. He gets into real estate as soon as he can. He gets into multifamily out in California, actually doing working in areas that most people would want to shy away from. He was in Compton. He got really involved in the Inland Empire of California, really involved in mobile home parks. So a lot of asset classes and areas that people would shy away from. And that was his calling card, and would be for the rest of his career, is going where no one else is willing to go. Because I think when you grow up in poverty like he did, or grow up with a tough life, his parents passed away at pretty young ages. His father passed away, and he was forced to work as a teenager to support the family. So what he had been through, working in areas that were tough to manage was nothing for him, because he had that passion and that drive to succeed and get out of poverty. So really the mindset shift that you say was him in that early part of his career when he came to America, and having that drive that was very rare, even in his family. I think, he was the one that had the most motivation and hunger to be in real estate, to grow his real estate company. You fast forward to a couple years later, and he actually ends up losing a lot of money in real estate. He gets over leveraged. The properties that he was owning in those areas, they start to decline. Industries move out, tenants move out, and so he finds himself in a really tough situation, not only with the business but with his brother who he was in business with. So really tough situation. Some people may have just said, okay, we have some success, we still have some money, let's just get to our 9-to-5 careers and enjoy our lives. He said, I'm not about that. And he started another real estate company, this time doing single family. Eventually in 2005, he sold out of California and moved to Dallas. And that's when we started doing single family. So he started doing single family in low income areas, again, working in places that people would shy away from, buying properties that needed, as much work as you can need without totally tearing down the property. And so he would do those, he would fix them up, and then he would sell them and carry back the note. So he was really in the note business, flipping, but you carry back the note. You're able to produce more long-term cash flow that way. Tax benefits, of course, to that as well. And so that's what he did for about 15 years. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2020. And so that's kind of where I came into the picture. I graduated from college in 2018. I was fortunate to have 1 year in 2019 to be able to learn from him, see how the business ran. He had grown it from 2005, having really just himself. He started in a converted garage in our first home in Dallas. And then now we have, 12 employees. We're in a two-story office building that we own, and that was all him. So he really built something in the 17 or 15 years that he was working in Dallas. And so in 2020, when he passed away, that was obviously a very tough time, I think, for everybody with COVID. And he actually passed away right before COVID. And so for me, I was kind of left with a great opportunity. He had taught me so much in just 1 year. And then he'd also, brought me up with the work ethic and the planning, which I think we'll talk about later, but the planning of knowing, of course, that he's going to pass away one day and what is my responsibility. So I was so fortunate that when he did pass away, even though it was scary, I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. I knew exactly what he trained me to do. And for him, he said, I like to build things. I don't like to manage things. And so that was my responsibility. I knew it from the beginning. My responsibility is to manage what he built. And so that's what I'm doing today. Fast forward 2 years, we got out. We still are in the single family business with notes, as well as a lot of rental properties that we own and manage in house. And in 2021, we kind of had this shift of, well, how do we scale this? And so how do I scale what he built over 15 years? And so multifamily was the answer to that. After a lot of soul searching, researching, networking, multifamily has been that answer. And so for the last 2 years or so now, or year and a half, we've been working in multifamily. We got our first deal in April, a 12 unit, working on getting more deal flow, working on connecting with potential partners in the Dallas area. We're looking for, self-management plays because that's what we have in house. We're looking for high value add with our construction experience. So we feel like we have a versatile team. He built something great, and I'm just trying to build on what he gave us.
Wow. What a story. Firstly, I want to say I'm really sorry for your loss. Like, that's 2 years ago, still pretty recent that, you still have those thoughts. You're like, oh, I need to tell my dad that. And then you're like, crap, that happened to me before too. Like when my dad passed, which was way long ago now, like 2010, but it's still,
it always hurts a little bit. Right?
Yeah, it always hurts, especially not related. But then, Father's Day, everyone's saying Happy Father's Day to my husband. And we said Happy Father's Day to his dad. And then my daughter, who's 4, says to me, oh, Mom, you got to tell your dad Happy Father's Day. And like, why don't you call your dad? And so I had to explain to her, that is those moments is like, they're so perceptive. This is really not even about that, but, it goes with the story. This is all that, what it is about that, because this is about legacy and this is about creating generational knowledge and finances and stability in our future, generations that come after us. And that is exactly what your father did for you.
And for myself, whenever we have a proud moment, you want to be able to tell your dad, or your mom, like, look what I've done, and make them proud. And so it is tough, and it's especially tough, just personally, like, wanting to make him proud and see what I'm doing with his legacy, and hoping that he approves of what I'm doing, and so yeah, you definitely want to have that gratification from him, and I don't get to have that, but I think it's almost like he planned it out so well. I know that I'm executing his plan, and so I don't have any doubts that he'd be approving what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that he's instilled with you such knowledge that even if you want to grow and expand beyond what he planned, he just having confidence that he taught you so much that there's no way he can't approve of what you're, because you're not going to just all of a sudden just lose your head and go crazy and try to do, I don't know, something that's completely out of the wheelhouse. Right. So I know he'd be proud of that.
What's remarkable is that, I think a lot of times when it comes to like immigrant parents, or when it comes to parents that started businesses and they're really worried about their kids not taking over the business and running it just like they ran it, is that he would tell me that, if you like to do something else, you want to be in sports or whatever you want to do with your life, you can do that and do real estate. And I think that's what's special too about real estate, is that it allows you to set your life up in a way that you can pursue other interests. It doesn't have to be your full-time job if you don't want it to be. And now in my case, I love real estate. Why would I not love it? But the fact that he gave me that flexibility to feel like I'm not bound to a business for the rest of my life was really freeing. Because I don't have to have that guilt if I decide that one day I want to sell properties and be more passive and get into other things with my life. So I got to commend him, for not guilting me with that responsibility for the rest of my life and giving me that freedom.
Yeah. And you know what? And I was going to mention that That's exactly what you said, that people build their empires and then want their kids to take over. But what if their kids don't want to take over? Where is that flexibility? And I think, like you just mentioned, your dad gave you that flexibility to not have to do it only the business, but you can set up the system so that you can still do it, but not have to spend as much time doing it if you want to spend time on something else that you enjoy. So it seems like your dad was like a systems guru. Is that wise to say? I think you should package all his knowledge into like a systems book, like how to build teams and systems. Because I'm sorry, that was selfish because I need that.
No, I would, it's sad because, I was thinking, before he passed, I was like, he tells me knowledge so much all the time. In 2019, especially, I was working with him every day, and like he would tell me so much every day, and I was like, I am not documenting this enough, and I'm going to be sorry for it. And I was, but I luckily a lot of it's still in the brain, and you can see what he did with the company and be able to document exactly how he built things. And I would say the biggest thing that he taught me was work ethic. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things you can do system wise, but in his case, he also outworked everybody else. And so I think that's what to me is special.
Okay. Now, what about the whole work smarter, not harder philosophy? Like, did he put anything into me? And even though he's working hard, that would take some things and like make it, I don't know, run smoother or whatever. Like, what do you feel about that philosophy versus seeing your dad work hard? Because, with, like the whole law of attraction and mindset, money flows to me easily and without struggle, all of that stuff, it sounds good, but is that true? Like everyone who's successful works hard, but what do they do to still have some people who are successful say all these mantras that, money flows to you easily and that you work smarter, not harder. But then on the other hand, people are working hard. So how do you reconcile that?
Well, I think you can have guy A that he's working, 16-hour days, and he's exchanging his time for his money because he doesn't have systems. He doesn't have employees. He doesn't do research to figure out how he can build those systems. But then you could have guy B who does all that, but also works 16-hour days, multiplying those systems and putting in the hours to grow them and scale them. I think that's what my dad did. Most people think that you can't scale with single family. That's why they get into multi, because they want to scale. Well, in his case, he bought, he was buying, 50 properties a year in tough areas, rehabbing them, and he had systems. He had great crews. He had employees that he built up, he developed. He was notorious for hiring people that did not have a lot of experience and then developing them. Right. So that way he can mold them into his system. So he was extremely intelligent, extremely thorough in planning, estate planning. So he did have a lot of great systems in place. But I think he combined that work harder with work smarter by doing both. He was going to outsmart you and he was going to outwork you. And if you have that, this is how you get from zero to what he built. And I think that's a good lesson to take. If you have to put the work in, regardless of how smart you work, you got to still put the work in, I think.
Yeah. And I love that. That's kind of this. It's the equivalent of the E-Myth. We're working in your business or working on your business instead of in your business. And most people are working in their business because they're always putting out those fires and doing the transactional things and not working on the bigger picture of your business. So if you're putting in the work to work on your business, then you're going to expedite things and grow it to a scale. Because to get 50 properties a year, wow, that's insane. That's beyond my comprehension of how I even know it's possible.
Incredible. And I felt like I was, growing up with the celebrity, the way he worked. I mean, it's an honor, to be able to work alongside him.
Yeah. So what you also said was that what I loved is he was going where no one else was willing to go. And that was when he started his first real estate company working in Compton, in that whole inland area. And then also when he started his second company and was going to low income housing areas and things of that nature. So he kept that core philosophy, no matter what asset type and what state he was in. Is that something that you still encompass today? And how are you keeping that core philosophy moving forward in the business today?
Yeah, I think you kind of look for, as everybody does, what is everybody shying away from? Where you want to be a little contrarian, right? You want to go where there's less competition. If you can find less competition and dominate whatever that area is, or that asset class, that model, that's where you want to go. So I think we're always looking for models or property types that people are, maybe they're too complicated. They're in areas that people are a little fearful to go. Whatever that is, you think if you can get that niche that doesn't have as much competition, you're going to be more successful. But I also think twofold, it was related to the neighborhood itself, right? People, they shy away from low income, often minority neighborhoods, if we're being frank. And I think he also recognized that, these are great people. This neighborhood is great. It deserves a chance. There are a lot of talented people that he can utilize in the neighborhood to grow his business. And there's a lot of cool, like South Dallas neighborhood that we work in. It's been underfunded. It's been underutilized for so long. But when you visit there, and I think a lot of Dallas residents just don't go down there, you find there's so much culture. There's so much great cuisine. I mean, there's so many opportunities there that if you just give it a shot, you'll be able to see what the opportunities are in that area. So I think it's twofold of getting your niche, being where there's less competition, but also having an appreciation and a willingness to be in the community and engage with these lower income neighborhoods.
Yeah. The other thing that you said too was that he was employing people with not a high skill level and then teaching them and training them and molding them. And so not only was he investing money and time in the properties and rehabbing these areas, he also was employing the people in those areas and giving them a skill, which is not just like, hire. Yeah. And creating good jobs is great. Everyone needs jobs, but like actually giving the opportunity to someone who wouldn't be able to get that job from somebody else because someone else is going to be like, look at their resume and say, no, you're not really, and I don't want to train you. I want somebody who already knows how to do the thing. Right. So I really respect that. And another thing that I wanted to ask about, you said he was in the note business because he was actually rehabbing these properties and then holding the notes. What was the purpose of that? Was that because it was strictly for the cash flow? But I have a feeling that it was probably to help people who couldn't normally buy properties be able to buy them.
Exactly right. And also it was a hedge against management issues. So he came from California. He was actually managing the multifamily out there. And then he built our company to be able to manage in-house. But to start it out, he really didn't want to have a ton of management responsibilities. And so buying a property and fixing it up and selling it with the note allowed you to still get that good cash flow. You make money off the interest, and you don't have to have the management responsibilities. It also allowed you to not have to make the property like a rental. You can do a little less and then sell to somebody who appreciates the upside and wants to continue rehabbing the property. But then secondly, to what you mentioned, it does give people an opportunity. And so it gives a lot of our customers are immigrants. They're people that don't have a lot of credit built up. So it definitely was giving people a chance to buy a house that normally wouldn't be able to get a loan from a bank. And the majority of our customers are immigrants or those in minorities. So it's a great opportunity. And you're also seeing now, 10, 15 years later, a lot of those customers that we sold to are being able to sell these properties for double and triple what we sold as the note to them. So yes, of course, we have higher interest rates than a typical bank. They're not predatory or anything, but they're higher to mitigate the risk. And then now look at the upside that has come through the DFW market and Southern Dallas specifically. They're making a ton of money off of these properties, had a ton of equity into these properties. So I think it turned out well. The business model benefited both sides and also provided, a public good to people that normally wouldn't be able to buy a house.
Wow, man, there's just so much there because it's just so smart. Like he is very smart. I'm just thinking about he was self-aware enough to know that he likes building things and not managing things. And he really structured his whole business around not having to manage things. That's just so smart. Like he's doing that to hedge against having to properly manage and like doing well and doing good,
rental properties that we do manage. But that was a product of understanding like, okay, the areas are appreciating. Rent growth is high. Let's pause it and see what we can hold on to.
Yeah.
So we have pivoted, but I think that's also like his gift as well. Pivoting, knowing when it's worth it to manage because we already have the infrastructure. And so that's kind of continuing on the multifamily in the self-management criteria is that, well, we have the infrastructure to manage. Let's build on that and make ourselves more competitive.
Yeah. And he also kind of deemed you the manager from earlier on. It's like, I'm not doing this, so you do it. So now you're the manager and you're, heading up the business. So you can help grow the management arm of the business.
Yeah. There's always talks about, entrepreneurship. And I definitely have fallen into the case where I'm like, oh man, I want to be like an entrepreneur and grind and have something new. But at the end of the day, if he already did that work for you and your job is to manage, I mean, that's where entrepreneurs want to get to. So I got to remind myself that I'm blessed to be able to be in this position. I don't necessarily have to run to a entrepreneurial grind to start something. I need to build what we have and grow it.
Okay, guys, don't kill me, but I'm going to have to cut this episode short. This is too juicy, and we need to do this in a part 2. So stay tuned for the next episode that airs, and you can hear the rest of our conversation.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.